Okay, the Ask Energy question of the week comes from Mia, and Mia is wondering how she can improve her gut health. Great question. I actually specialize in this. A lot of the athletes, that's probably the number one or two reason why they come to me because I love exploring digestive health. Now, there's a little bit to unpack here, right? So obviously there's a lot of things that can go wrong downstairs in the gut, in the digestive system, right? There can be anything from, maybe something as simple as bloating or flatulence or gas, all the way up to maybe some GERD, some reflux, maybe some diarrhea, maybe some constipation, all the way up to IBS or maybe even celiac disease. So there's a lot of things that can go on with the gut. Some are autoimmune, like celiac. Some are just honestly they are triggers, or there are triggers from food usually that sets off GI distress or these digestive woes or challenges. So let's get to the bottom of this because it's actually an easy fix if it is food related. Okay. Now, that said, I'm going to introduce the FODMAP diet. It is a diet. As we know, diets are very restrictive. They're very elimination based. The FODMAP diet is extremely restrictive, extremely elimination based because the whole goal is to reduce the foods that are causing the digestive challenges. Okay, so let me go through FODMAP really quick. So FODMAP is an acronym for certain for mostly for carbohydrates, right? So the F stands for fermentable. The O stands for oligosaccharides, which is a specific type of carbohydrate. The D stands for disaccharides, another carbohydrate. The M stands for monosaccharides, yet another carbohydrate. The A stands for and then the P stands for polyols. Polyols are what are called sugar alcohols. Now, I have blogged about that. I've written about that in the Energy newsletter. So you can go to energyperformance.com, click on education. You can just type in polyols or sugar alcohols, and you'll find a nice article on what those are. Okay, so FODMAPs, they are fermentable carbohydrates that disturb the gut. So there are some carbohydrates that actually ferment a little bit more in the gut than other carbohydrates. And the whole goal of FODMAP is to discover and to find which of these carbohydrates are causing your digestive system the concerns. Okay, so there are three phases of a FODMAP diet. There is an elimination phase, a reintroduction phase, and a personalization phase. Let me go through those because this is how I start with every single athlete when they have gut issues. Okay, first phase, elimination phase. This lasts, I start with 4 weeks. It can go up to 6 weeks, maybe even 8 weeks, depending on the symptoms, if they're getting better or not getting better. But the goal for the elimination phase is literally to eliminate certain foods. Okay. So you want to follow what is called a low FODMAP diet for these first 4 weeks. Now, how do you do that? Well, there's a whole host of list of foods that are low, moderate, and high FODMAP. Listen, you do yourself a favor, get one of the free FODMAP apps out there. That's what I do when I help athletes all the time because listen, there's so many foods that you have to try to remember. It's not worth it. Okay. Once you get going, you'll remember the ones that work for you and don't. But in the beginning phases, go to the app store, get the app, pick your FODMAP app and use that because that's the easiest way to do this. Okay. All right. So once you have the app, you are going to go in there and basically search depending on the app. Like the app I have, I can actually search lists of fruits, list of vegetables, list of whole grains, whatever it is, starches, right? And you can see which ones in the app that I have, which ones they color code as green, yellow, and red. So green is low, yellow is moderate, red is high. We do not want any moderate or yellow or high red foods in the first 4 weeks, all green. That's the elimination part. You're going to actually eliminate quite a bit of foods, but that's the goal because remember, we're trying to not only figure out which foods are disturbing your gut, we're also trying to heal your gut at the same time. So taking these carbohydrate sources out that are moderate and high FODMAP will help to heal your gut at the same time that we figure out which trigger foods are the triggers for your specific digestive woe. Okay. All right, so now you've got the app, you figure out which foods are low FODMAP, you follow that for 4 weeks. Fantastic. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. Don't worry. I'm not going to lie. That first 4 weeks is rough, right? I've done it myself. It's a tough one, but you can do this. The second phase is called the reintroduction phase. So after the first 4 weeks, if you are not having major symptoms, this is the reintroduction phase. If you're still having major symptoms, continue the elimination phase, okay? Because your gut needs more healing. Okay, the reintroduction phase, step 2. That is where you're going to take one moderate or yellow FODMAP food and introduce it about every 5 to 7 days. Do not choose more than one, because this is what you're trying to determine is if that food is going to trigger symptoms, right? If after 5 to 7 days it does not trigger any symptoms, you can move that food to your green list, right? And that's what you keep doing. So every 5 to 7 days, you're introducing more moderate FODMAP foods. Now, after about a month or two, your gut, your digestive system should be feeling pretty darn good, right? Now, it is up to you, completely up to you. And this is the third step, the personalization step. If you want to enter the high FODMAP food world and choose one high FODMAP food every 5 to 7 days, you can certainly do that. Listen, a lot of athletes that I work with, they only stick with the green, the low FODMAP, and the moderate ones, the ones they figure out that do not cause any concerns, they're not triggers, and they stick with that for almost an indefinite amount of time. But I get it. Like every so often, you're going to be like, hey, I really want to have, whatever it is. Introduce it. Absolutely. That's the personalization phase, right? That's that step. If you want to introduce it, just introduce one. Again, give it 5 to 7 days, determine if it's a trigger or not. So this process, listen, I'm sure there's a pill you could take to make this all better, but there's not a pill you could take to make this all better. Like when it comes to gut health, we don't want to mess around with that, right? There's no Band-Aid that we're trying to fix and trying to look at and rip off. We're trying to look at causes, because gut health is lifelong, right? So you want to determine the foods that work for you now. And I'm not going to go off on the tangent of the whole aging thing, because as you age, your body is going to assimilate and process foods differently. So you may have, for example, I know a friend of mine who used to be able to eat avocados. And now, as she's gotten older, she's not able to eat avocados anymore. Why? What gives? Interestingly enough, avocados have a very special sugar alcohol in them. Interesting, right? That this, my friend, cannot process anymore. So that will happen over time. But here's the thing. If you take a good 3 months, you can actually fix your gut really well. You heal your gut. And then you can also determine which foods work, which foods don't. But I would say give it about 3 months, right? It's a bumpy road at first, I'm not going to lie. But once you're about halfway through, it becomes much easier. And listen, when your gut is healthy and not giving you any symptoms, you feel so much better mentally, because remember, there is a gut-brain axis. There is that connection between the gut and the brain. There's also a connection between the gut and the immune system. So it is to your benefit to spend a lot more time trying to heal and fix your gut if you have digestive challenges. Okay, FODMAP diet, you've got that. Mia, thank you so much for the question. See you on the next Ask eNRG.